Remember a few years back, I was preparing for travel with my coworker, turned roommate, turned best friend. We wanted to try some place we've never been, but something familiar enough that it would feel fresh and new. So we spent a few weeks going back and forth, and eventually we were stuck between England and Germany. The easy choice, of course, is England. Everyone speaks the same language. We have similar cultural outlooks. Even our national distaste for anything resembling spice can be considered something comparable. So when we landed on Germany instead, I found myself staring down a map, of course, written in German, a language I only know a few sparse curse words from my grandmother growing up, with my plane ticket printed out and ready to scan the gate. And we didn't know anywhere to go. We had a week full just to raise hell, make mistakes, see things we've never seen before. I know one thing now, though. If I hadn't gone, or worse, chose to have gone to London instead, I knew I would regret it forever. So when we took the leap, we held hands and bretzas, or pretzels, and found out exactly how much a liter of beer actually feels like going down at Oktoberfest. Major humble brag. But what I really learned on that trip wasn't just about the rich culture that my family had fled from during World War II. It was about how stepping outside of my comfort zone rewired the way I think, learn, and grow. And when we talk about the adventure mindset, we're not talking literally in the sense that you should go out and rent a boat and live off of Lake Michigan, although if that's what you want, power to you, right? It's a mindset that helps us learn better, grow faster, and become more resilient in the way we contextualize the world around us. So, what exactly is the adventure mindset? It's a way of approaching life where we embrace challenge, experience discomfort, and where we accept that uncertainty leads to new experiences and earned resiliency. I don't know about you personally, but how many times have you been stuck in a fixed mindset, thinking about challenges that come ahead, and already you've begun to bias yourself outside of achievement due to your fear of failure? That little voice in your head that tells you that the effort isn't worth the squeeze. Too much coursework, too much reading. Opportunity costs of missing out on the next season of White Lotus. But it does matter that we get outside of the fixed mindset. And why is that? The world is adapting and evolving faster than ever before with the newest advent of AI technologies that can think for us so that we don't have to. Terrifying. Do we want to live in a simulacrum of a world that's defined by the parameters of generative reasoning? Or do we want to live in one that we've created for ourselves and sculpted with our own lived experiences? Adaptability is still a highly desired and competitive trait for everyone in the workforce. It really wasn't all that long ago that email was innovative. Now, if you're sending me a message that's not on Slack or Microsoft Teams, don't bother. I'm not reading it. John Takei and William X, two psychologists tapped into the convergence of neuroscience and social psychology, offered jointly in The Social Neuroscience of Empathy in 2009 that when we expose ourselves to unfamiliar situations, whether through travel, cultural experiences, or learning new skills, we become more understanding of others. The adventure mindset builds empathy and stronger human connections. Mariam and Barima in 2014 noted that in the workplace, we don't just learn new skills alone. We learn best through social interaction, collaboration, and shared experiences. And lastly, workplaces filled with diversity of thought thrive when people are open to new experiences. The more unfamiliar experiences you have, the easier it is to become to connect to people with different backgrounds. The adventure mindset isn't just about pushing yourself, it's about expanding your capacity for empathy and collaboration. But how does this actually work? Why does stepping outside of your comfort zone make you smarter? Did you know that Steve Jobs once took a calligraphy class? It had nothing to do with computers. It was just simply out of a curiosity of lettering. He had no idea why he did it either. It had nothing to do with his career. He wasn't a designer or an artist. He wasn't thinking about how it advanced his career in some sort of way. He just followed his own curiosity. And years later down the road, when he was designing the first Mac, the lessons he took earlier came flooding back to him. He goes on later to talk about this in detail. If I had never dropped in on that single calligraphy course in college, the Mac would have never tied multiple typefaces or proportionality stays fonts. Now, imagine if Jobs threw that experience out the window because it wasn't going to have an immediate reward for his long-term vision. Imagine if he stayed inside his comfort zone, taking only measured, practical courses that fit his CV. That's exactly the type of transformative learning that occurs when we step away from our comfort zones. Jack Mesereau in 1991 developed a theory that's used to explain the phenomenological effect that adults don't learn through passive instruction. He argues that in order for us to learn, we need to have what we call disorienting dilemmas that challenge our worldview, our way of thinking, or our perceptions of our own capabilities. It's when these moments happen, we're forced to slow down and critically think, take a review of our own belief systems, and reconsider how we actually see the world. Imagine that you've only ever played board games that have very simple rules, like Monopoly or the Game of Life. Now, imagine yourself stepping into a game board that has hundreds of pieces or complex rule sets like Catan or Wingspan, or maybe even worse, Kingdom Death Monster. It's a brutalist game that makes you undergo extreme resource scarcity and the threat of life or death choices that could end the game at any time. At first, you feel lost. You want to quit because it takes so much effort just to find the energy or motivation to activate a disorienting dilemma. But you stick with it. You start seeing patterns. You develop new cognitive strategies. You adapt to the uncertainty and come out on the other side. And if I've already lost you with the board game talk, totally sorry. Did you know that trying new things actually changes how we feel time? Time slows down when we engage in new experiences, according to Mark Whitman's research in his award winning book, Felt Time. If you want to lead a more fulfilling life, try to plan things in the future that you've never done before. To boil this down, go ahead and try closing your eyes, maybe just 10 seconds or so. You can map the room around you without seeing it, right? How about the entire building? The roads you took to get to work this morning? All this becomes part of your mind map. The normalization of our routines creates heuristics in our head that pull the need to think out of the equation. And this makes time actually feel so much faster. For example, how many of you have thought that life is quicker when we're older? That might just be because when we were young, we were still developing our neuroplasticity, still looking to bring context to things we don't understand. And I talk about neuroplasticity as a key concept for how we learn as adults. This isn't a new thought. Kolb, Merriam, and Barima explain that people who challenge themselves learn faster and are more innovative. And that's because our brains have the ability to rewire itself. Every single time you learn something new, your brain creates new neural connections, making it easier to recall that experience. So, what does that mean? Disorienting dilemmas literally create instances where our brains work hard to transfer that experience into shifting our perspectives and thereby learning. Adventures make us smarter, and it has the ability to make us feel more fulfilled and lead happier, longer, at least perceived, lives. So, what does this all mean for us as we move forward, navigating our own disorienting dilemmas? Simply put, we become better, more accepting, and adaptive people. I like to propose the contact hypothesis, which was offered by Gordon Allport in 1954. Meaningful interactions with people and experiences reduce biasnesses and improves teamwork. So think about it maybe from a literal viewpoint. Do football teams perform better the first time the team has come together, or does it take, as Malcolm Gladwell would say, 10,000 hours of group work to form mastery and cohesion? In 1954, when Alpert was putting together his theory, Brown versus Board of Ed was breaking down barriers between racial divides. He writes, in The Nature of Prejudice, prejudice may be reduced by the equal status contact between majority and minority groups in the pursuit of common goals. The effect is greatly enhanced if this contact is sanctioned by institutional supports, i.e., by law, custom, or local atmosphere, and provided it is of a sort that leads to the perception of common interests and common humanity between members of the two groups. And we see this time and time again. People who had worldviews or political beliefs can experience the other side of the argument or perspective, and they end up changing their own opinion. We adapt because we've learned, and studies show this sort of flexibility creates better workplaces. Diverse workplaces, both in cultural terms and diversity of thought, thrive when the individual members of the organization are open up to new experiences themselves. Leaders who have traveled, learned more cross disciplinary skills, or embraced discomfort connect better and innovate more. David McClelland, in his 1961 book, The Achieving Society, tells us that risk taking is a key trait of high achieving individuals. How many of you are type A personalities? I'm not, so I wouldn't know what it's like, but give us B types some more leeway. Those who seek fulfillment and achievement take calculated risks instead of mitigating challenge. And I bet you didn't know that Jeff Bezos worked on Wall Street in financial services as a product manager. It was a completely stacked career, cush. He could want for nothing if he kept going down that path, but instead he decided to open up an online bookstore. And now Amazon is one of the largest, if not the largest corporation in the world. Remember Steve Jobs' love of calligraphy? Yeah, it tracks. So that trip to Germany that I took, it didn't just teach me how to climb Neuschwanstein, but that was pretty cool. It taught me how to embrace uncertainty in every area of my life. And the real question shouldn't be, why should we embrace discomfort? Rather, how can we start today? So remember, growth is born from discomfort. If you're scared, you're learning. Your brain thrives on challenges. It treats it like delicious morsels of cake. The more you push yourself, the smarter and more adaptable you become. Your brain literally rewires itself to fit the new mind maps that you're experiencing with every new thing you experience. The best learners seek adventure. They know stepping outside of their comfort zone is how we level up and lead from new places of empathy. So here's my challenge to you. Do something this week that scares you a little bit. Say yes to a new opportunity. Find a book about a fantastical place that doesn't exist. Become the hero setting off towards Mount Doom to destroy the One Ring. I really think you're ready to grow.